welcome to Alongside Lauren. I'm Lauren, and I'm so glad that we get to spend some time hanging out this afternoon in my kitchen. This week we are preparing a sourdough focaccia, which I am going to take to my work's charity bake sale tomorrow. I say charity bake sale, but I think it's mostly an excuse for us to raise funds for important charity, absolutely, but to put in a gold coin and basically just eat as much treats as we want for morning tea as possible. And I'm really happy to contribute my, in my opinion, pretty darn good sourdough focaccia to a really good cause, and probably have a little piece of it myself as well. So I think that one of the things that I love about this recipe is the fact that you can prep the dough in the afternoon. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're prepping the dough this afternoon in readiness for me to top it and bake it so it's nice and fresh for tomorrow morning. So I think just so that you've got a bit of an idea of what that looks like, I do have a photo of one that I have prepared earlier, and this particular focaccia is topped with herbs and onion and some Maldon's sea salt flakes as well as olive oil, and it is just delicious. Will I still be putting butter on that even though I know how much olive oil is in there? You bet I will. So I have got my sourdough that has been, my sourdough starter rather, that has been fed, so it's all bubbly and active and ready to go. But you know what also I need to make sure that I have active and ready to go? That would be a wine. That was a really terrible segue, but I stand by it. We have got a lovely chilled Sauvignon Blanc. We haven't had Sauvignon Blanc in ages, so this will be quite lovely. There's just something about this time of year. There's all kinds of bits and pieces and busyness and nuttiness going on, and here in the Southern Hemisphere it's hot, it's summer, we're sort of contending with an outbreak of flies because that's what happens when you're in Australia. But you know what? A chilled out Sunday afternoon in the kitchen with a glass of wine, good company, and the promise of carbohydrates tomorrow. I reckon that's a pretty good weekend. Spectacular. So what I'm going to do is we'll just start to...
Oh, I've timed this well.
Oh, you have?
Hi there, everyone. I am Heath. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, and for spending... Oh, heck, I can't put this back on. Oh, that's all right. I found the thread.
I might have snuck a little bit before
I did notice that, but I did take an inordinately
Cheers.
long time, cheers, to sort out putting the lid back on that.
Well, that is pretty unique. I like it. I like it.
So
That's
it's
quite unique.
it's an Aussie one.
Cool.
It's partly fermented in French oak.
Okay.
So it's got
All
some
right.
of those sort of
Nice.
buttery, oaky, Chardonnay-y type qualities, which is amazing. Okie dokie. So, you would think that given how much I have made this recipe that I would remember it, and yet. We will just need to add in the flour. Now, this particular recipe comes from Maurizio of The Perfect Loaf. Maurizio is an engineer by background, which means that his recipes are incredibly precise. So I kid you not that it calls for 423 grams of all-purpose flour. So 423 grams we will have.
I very much appreciate his recipes.
Yes.
I love how accurate they are. And a little while ago, he did a book, didn't he?
Yes, he
That
did.
you ended up getting.
I think I got that. Did I get that for Christmas?
Yeah, I
Can't
think so.
remember.
So when I say a little while ago, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, about 12 months, I may say. It's a beautiful book. And I've made a few recipes from there. I should probably do a few more. And then also we'll add in 181 grams of high-protein bread flour.
I love it. Why go 180
One.
when you can go 181?
Exactly.
That's what I say.
It's what I always say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of the key difference that you get between a bread flour and what you might call like a plain flour or an all-purpose flour is the difference in protein. And so you want a higher protein flour when you are using bread because you want those gluten strands to develop so that you get that beautiful structure. But because this is a focaccia, so we don't need it to be like bready, which is absolutely a thing. So that's why this recipe has got a, Jack, 179. I got to dig
Oh, you're
out
getting
2
there.
grams.
A little tiny bit more.
Oh.
I love that precision.
181. Perfect.
Nailed it.
And we've got 115 grams of ripe sourdough starter.
So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by
So it means
ripe?
it's been fed and it's quite bubbly. So it's not like straight from the fridge. It's really bubbly and active. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah,
But it's,
okay.
yeah, really healthy.
Is it quite soupy?
It is. This
yeah,
one
okay.
is at the moment.
Yeah.
To be honest, this one's probably a little bit past its prime.
All right.
It probably would have been very good if I did this, I don't know, maybe 3 hours ago.
Is that really the difference in time that matters?
Yeah.
Just, wow, okay.
I think it's one of the things that I do love about sourdough is there is precision, but because, you're working with wild yeast, so it's also like there's an element of it almost being a little bit like kind of working with a wild animal too, which I find really cool. When I say it out loud, it makes me sound a bit strange. That's okay. So we're adding in 459 grams of water.
Of course. Not 460.
Nope. Not 458. 459. Da-da-da.
Little by little.
Little by little. It is really hard to take water out, so I do try to be,
Take your time.
yeah.
Get it spot on. Really?
4 grams.
Not to worry.
I'm 1 over. Don't tell anyone.
All right.
I love that I was holding my breath for that, though.
Yeah, I think everybody was.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
very, very
I know.
intense.
Scintillating
Yes,
television.
Yes, very,
We've
very
now got
intense.
to add in 11 grams of salt, which is about the
Okay.
equivalent of a teaspoon. Or maybe like 2 teaspoons. That was 6. 10. And a wee bit more. It's gone over to 12.
So can you access this particular recipe just from the web?
This one you can just get straight from the Perfect Loaf website.
Nice. The World Wide Web.
The World Wide Web. Which I was surfing the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was surfing. I was on the net
You're on the net, surfing it.
surfing it. All right, so we want to mix this for We want to put in a dough
You
hook.
can't mix it without a mixing head. All right, let's get a dough hook. Good plan.
You silly sausage, Lauren.
That is gold.
Like, oh my gosh, it doesn't look
That
right.
is absolutely gold.
I tried to like make it so that it would be easy for you to see what was going on. So like I
Yeah.
picked the glass.
Your focus was on like
I
positioning
picked
stuff.
like the glass bowl
Yeah.
and sort of tried to position it so
So clever. You were
But
just
just
you
forgot
were
to
on the
put the
money
thing
for
in.
absolutely everything except for the mix bit. So do you mix that for a time or
yeah, just wanting to see like
something?
for it to kind of incorporate. So with focaccia, I reckon focaccia is a fantastic bread to make if you haven't made a lot of bread before. It's quite a wet dough, but because you're not needing to form it into like a proper loaf or anything like that, you kind of just bake it in a baking tray. It's really like low pressure. So we're just going to increase the speed a little bit. And we're going to mix it for 5 minutes.
Right.
And
Well-
just let it kind of
While that's mixing,
do its thing for a little bit.
did you want to tell people about this other slow cooker that's just
Oh
sitting
my
here?
gosh, yes. So, I know I still need that because I need olive oil. So I have, we had our church Christmas dinner last night, and Heath and I, we always do ham for the church Christmas dinner. And so we baked a ham. It was amazing. There was no ham left, which I reckon is always the best indicator that people have enjoyed the food that we have made. But I retained the ham hock so that we're able to have pea and ham soup. Now, I know that pea and ham soup doesn't seem like it's going to be the best thing, given the fact that it's summer. But because at the moment it feels like we're kind of rolling from one event to the next, and we are eating mince pies and rumbles at every opportunity. So I reckon a nice lighter dinner of a pea and ham soup. I was going to do salad with it, but I think I'm just going to do bread rolls, which I think
yes.
Mr. Barker will be much happier with. But it will just sort of lighten things up a little bit. And it's great because we will just have it there in the fridge. It's minimal thinking, just need to heat it up. Get some bread rolls from the freezer, pop them into the air fryer, and Bob's your uncle dinner done.
Nice.
So I did pull out the ham hock a little bit earlier so that we can try and take some of the meat off and cut it in. Because of the style of hock that we picked this time, it wasn't actually a particularly large ham hock. It was a fairly small one, which is fine. Because it meant that we were getting a lot more ham.
Well, normally we get the lower. Oh, I feel like we got
The
like
bit so normally we get the bit that looks like a leg of ham.
Yes,
Like, if it
yes.
was like a cartoon leg of ham that you were going to draw, that's the one that we normally get.
Yeah.
But this time around, we got the one that's like the other
It's more
end,
like a shoulder
so it's
or
round.
something. Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I guess it'd be like
It probably is the
this
thigh.
bit.
Yeah.
It's probably the thigh.
Probably is the thigh. But we don't know for sure.
No,
we
we
should probably know that.
Butchers we are not. The other bit.
Yep.
And so it tends to have more meat on it. And it just means that we have the hock is a little bit smaller, which is fine.
Yep.
So this is kind of, I guess, like the what I will do now is just grab the meat that's left off the hock and chop it up, because I was a bit concerned that there wouldn't be too much meat in there. I had a pack of ham in the freezer for another ham that we had done previously that I have just added in there as well, that I'll slice up. Yeah,
there's really not much meat left on that
that's
bone.
just
Hey?
bone.
But that's okay.
But again, and look, the thing is, I keep saying pea and ham soup, but technically it's not pea and ham soup.
Because
It's
you're using
actually-
lentils, right?
It's red lentils.
Yeah.
So technically it's a lentil and ham soup. And the main reason why is I'd bought like bulk red lentils from Costco,
Yep.
and I figured I'd just have a go at using them in a sort of pea and ham style soup. And Heath and I, we actually preferred it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's...
We thought it was nicer.
Because we can buy them in bulk, and because I will often just have the red lentils around, has worked out to be cheaper, which is also my favourite thing. It's one of those things that I quite love about pea and ham / red lentil and ham soup, is that it almost feels like you're kind of getting a bonus meal out of the ham, because you've already done all the work, like it's got all the flavour, and it's something that you like would normally just have chucked out. So yeah, like it's kind of a little bit like getting a meal for free, almost. I mean, there's still veg in there. You still got the red lentil.
So when we're preparing our hams, one of the first things that has to happen is pulling the skin off. And we're trying to figure out a good way to use that
I'm trying to figure out a good way to use it. I was wondering if you could like use it almost to sort of flavour up the soup.
Yeah, yeah, because it's got that smoky
yeah.
like colouring to it and everything.
Yeah. So I've got that all chopped up, and I'm just going to add it back into the soup.
Nice.
And the other thing, I've got some, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Much nicer.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't quite as noisy for everybody else as it was for us in the kitchen.
Oh, well. That's what happens when you're making focaccia.
No, it's all good. So, all right, that's gone in. That's great.
Yeah, and I've also just got, I'll just pop this. This is just the soups that got captured by the hock when I was
Nothing
pulling
like
it out.
a bit of backup soup.
I'll put it in. I'll just let that continue to sort of cook away a little bit. Although it's pretty much there.
Rightio. Nice.
So the only thing that we'll sort of look at doing next with the focaccia dough is adding in the oil. So we will just let that rest for 5 or so minutes, and then I'll add the oil in. But I will just measure out the oil now. It's 12 grams of oil.
12 grams. Almost doesn't seem... Well, of course it's worth it. It's a focaccia. It does get covered in oil later.
I know, and this is the thing, like it's kind of oil, and then a little bit more oil. But I thought it might be a good idea, so while I measure out the oil, for us to just prep the bits and pieces that will go on the focaccia. So did you want to grab an onion out of the...
Sure, yeah.
We can pretend that we've got like a fancy storage area larder, but what we actually have is just a fridge in our garage. Or Heath has gone down to pop out and grab the onions. And I've got the olive oil measured there that I will pop in. So to top our focaccia, we will do some fresh herbs that I will gather tomorrow morning. So my plan is to let this kind of, the dough to sort of prove at ambient temperature for a couple of hours, or basically until we head off to our next adventure.
Oh, yes.
And then I'll pop the dough in the fridge. I'll get the dough out tomorrow morning when I get up, and just sort of let it come to room temperature. And then we'll coax it into a, I guess like a tray that you would use for like a tray bake or something like that. And I have learnt my lesson. I will put baking paper down. I tried to just use olive oil the first time we did it, and it did not work well.
Yeah, it seems a bit unfair, doesn't it, that sticks, because it's literally swimming in the olive oil.
Yeah, I know. And yet, somehow. But that's all right.
Yeah,
It was
it was a good experiment.
it was a great experiment, and fortunately, it was also something that I was only cooking for Heath and I. So
Low stakes.
yes, I mean not to say that I don't always give it my all when I'm cooking dinner for my amazing husband.
That is true. I was just going to say, did you happen to tell people about the beef that you did yesterday?
No, I didn't. So in addition to the ham, we also did roast veg, which fine. Although because we had stuff to do in terms of setting up for the church dinner, and then we needed to sort of come back home to get everything finished, and I was worried that we wouldn't have enough time to actually like cook the roast veg yesterday afternoon. So I normally will do like a selection of sort of hard roast veg, so your root vegetables, and then some softer veg like your Brussels sprouts and capsicum and broccoli and what have you. And so I got all the veg ready. I baked the root vegetables for half an hour, put it in the fridge, had the other veg, so the Brussels sprouts, etc., all sort of ready to go as well in the fridge. And then when we got back with sort of half an hour to spare, I was able to put the root vegetables in for another half hour, put the soft vegetables in for half an hour, and they were perfect.
They
it
were
worked so
excellent,
well.
yeah.
It was, like a really great little sort of time-saving exercise there. I really don't like using like life hack and stuff like that. So time-saving exercise is what we'll go with.
Time-saving exercise, of course.
But with the beef, we'd been asked to do like a roast beef of some description, and I don't cook a lot of roast beef. Like if we have beef, it tends to be either
Steak
steak
or mince.
And so,
Yeah, we
so
don't do a
speaking
lot
of
of roast
which,
beef.
the steak that the whole no, you reckon
I
just
think
half?
that'll be enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had bought on sale from our amazing discount local supermarket.
Yep.
They had a Black Friday sale, which is really strange for
I
groceries.
love the idea that yes.
But they had a whole budget porterhouse for $9.99 a kilo, which is insane.
Well, it's cheaper than mince.
Well, it is. It's cheaper than mince at the moment.
And it was porterhouse.
And it was Heath wasn't with me because I think I'd gone while he had work stuff on, and I normally like division of responsibilities. Heath is normally like the picker of steak in our household. And so I was kind of like...
Picker of the meat. No. Okay, sorry.
Selector of the steak. Oh my gosh. There is something about Master of the House. I'm sure there was a Seinfeld episode about it. But honestly, every time I hear it for the next day, it will just... Anyway,
this is going to be stuck in your head.
It's completely fine. So I was flying blind. I did my best, but I feel like I did a reasonable job in selecting a good porterhouse.
You picked an
piece.
excellent one. It had quite a big fat layer on top. So it would have also been good, like almost like a brisket type approach. It was...
Which is what we ended up doing. So we very liberally salted and peppered it.
Yeah, it had to be allergen, very low allergen.
Yeah. So making sure that it was FODMAP friendly as well. So
It certainly wasn't vegetarian or vegan.
No, it was definitely not. But dairy free, gluten free, and FODMAP friendly.
Yes.
So we did that.
Ticked a lot of boxes.
And browned the meat, and then
and by browning the meat, you mean that you put it on the
teppanyaki hot plate.
The teppanyaki hot plate, because it's quite a big cut. It was about this long, right? So we're fortunate enough to have a really long teppanyaki hot plate that we could put the whole thing on.
Yep. And browned the meat off on the teppanyaki hot plate, and then just added it to the slow cooker.
Ta-da.
With thank you, that's great. And we'll just pop it in as a sandwich bag with the capsicum, and that will make life so much easier for me tomorrow.
It's going to speed us up. Yep, absolutely.
And so we we just put it in the slow cooker then with a couple of bay leaves, some fresh oregano, cooked it on high for about an hour and a half, and then popped it on low for
4 hours? 6 hours?
Maybe 6 hours.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And then just ended up like sort of just shredding it, and the beef
So
was.
our intentions.
My intention was to
Were to
slice
slice
it like a roast beef.
But when we pulled it out of the slow cooker, it was falling apart.
Yeah.
Like it was magnificent.
Yeah,
Like
but
it was
not
a
for
pulled
roast beef.
It was a pulled beef.
Yeah.
It ended up being, and it was so
It
good.
was
And
so good.
all of the gristle had what's the word?
The connective tissue.
The
had just,
connective
like,
tissue. Sorry.
Had
It turned to like a jelly.
Yeah.
Or a very like and it
Yeah.
it added a like a stickiness
yeah, like
to
a
it
real
and
unctuousness to it. It was amazing.
fantastic.
It was so good.
Very, very popular dish.
It was.
last night.
And then I had people ask me for the recipe, and I'm like,
There's really not much to it. It's just the cooking process, really. So, yeah. All right, it looks like you are up to the next
Okay,
phase.
Now, it's time to add in our olive oil. So we'll just,
Okay, all right. So you have to blend it.
yeah,
Sorry, blending's not the word, is it?
we just incorporate it in.
Right. So you just slowly adding it.
Yeah.
Ah, I see. Yeah. Yeah, right.
I'll just let it mix for a little bit.
Yep.
Just to try and get it.
Yeah, you can already see it taking.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, and then we'll just let it go for a minute. Just to make sure we've got that strength built back up.
The what built
The
back
strength.
up? The strength
dough.
built back up.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Well, like every time you add an inclusion into a dough after you've already strengthened it, then it makes a fundamental change to the structure of the dough.
Okay.
And so when you think about like the gluten proteins within the dough, the process of like mixing your dough and like kneading your dough is to help to like stretch and really build those protein strands of the gluten within the dough. So we partially already did that already with the initial mix, and then we kind of let it have a chill out. And then we added in the olive oil. So what we're doing now is to try and build that strength and building those protein strands, the gluten, back into the dough, so we get like a really nice structure that's more bready rather than cakey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. All right.
So this is quite a wet dough.
Mm-hmm. And that's by design?
It is by design
Yep.
because it's focaccia, but it is like it's a bit nerve-wracking in some ways. But you just remind yourself, like, this is not a loaf of bread. Like, I don't have to form it into a
Shape or anything?
shape or anything
Yeah.
like
You
that.
don't need to make a donut?
Nope.
Donut focaccias.
I would actually love to have another
Could be.
go at sourdough donuts, but then, like,
yeah.
I think
Mhm.
if there is one thing December Lauren does not need,
Yeah.
it is sourdough donuts.
See, that's the problem. Lauren is an amazing cook, but she's also very wise
It's very annoying.
when it comes to making sure that we don't eat too many things.
Yeah.
Too many of the amazing things.
Just try
So-
and have a little bit of balance. So now I'm just going to put
A
shower
shower
cap.
cap on top.
on top,
Yeah.
and we're just going to let that chill out. So we will do like some folds with the dough. So so that just means that sort of at 30-minute intervals, I will just kind of pull up the dough and kind of fold it over itself. I will use damp hands, and I could probably, this could end in tears because it's not ready for it, but I could just do a really quick demonstration of the
Great.
folding process.
Yeah.
With damp hands.
All right.
We'll take off the rings.
Oh, okay.
So So it's nothing too complicated, but it is just one of those things where if you see it read, or like if you read it in a recipe for sourdough, that you just think, what does that mean? So it's just pulling up the dough and just folding it over itself. And you kind of go from north to south, east to west. It's not working all that well because it's not quite ready for it.
Yeah. But it's giving the concept.
Yeah. And again, that will help to build the strength of that dough, because if we sort of just did it as is, apart from the fact that it's not, it's not fermented, so it would just be like a really horrendous pancake if I tried to bake it now. So I won't. So we'll let that chill out for a couple of hours.
The next time you do it, how long will you do it for?
What do you mean?
The folding.
The process, in half an hour.
How long would that process take? As in, do you do 5 folds? Do you do 20 folds?
Just like one set. One set. So you just go north, south, east, west, south, north, west, east.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Nice and easy. But now it's time for that beautiful focaccia dough to chill out for a little bit. And I've got to be honest, I'm probably going to chill out for a little bit with my glass of wine as well before we head on to our next thing. But at this time of year, it's so helpful just to take that couple of minutes on a Sunday afternoon to try and make your life for the coming week a little bit easier. I know that I am going to appreciate the time that we spent prepping this focaccia dough tomorrow morning, and I can't wait to do it all again with you next week on Alongside Lauren.